Live, I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe. Sorry, I'm in my own little world here and completely forgot to say, hey, I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Well, Dan's so pumped because we usually have to have a couple of Texans on every week. And we got a good one there on the screen. If you're watching Facebook Live, YouTube Live, it's Mark Gregston. And look at that mustache. That is a Western mustache.
Well, I've had it forever and I can't get rid of it. So it's kind of the trademark at this point.
Now, folks,
how often do you get confused with Sam? I forget his last name, the actor that's from Texas.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam Elliott. You kind of have that Sam Elliott look to you.
Interestingly enough, I was in L.A. At the Admirals Club at the airport, and Sam Elliott was there, and he looked at me, and he just kind of pointed, and he goes, "Come here." So I walked over to him and he goes, "I like your mustache."
Oh, that's awesome.
Did not get a picture. I just didn't think it was the right time to do that. And, but at least I got congratulated by a wonderful guy who's had that mustache for a long time.
And boy, that voice, man, I wish that's a great voice. I love to hear him speak.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, Mark's pretty amazing. He's a child behavior expert and he's an author. We're going to talk about a couple of things. His new book is called Where's Stitch? And we're also going to talk about something that he's a part of, Heartlight Ministry. It's a haven to help teens. Specifically about the book, it deals with grief. So, Mark, let's begin with the book, and then we'll segue into Heartlight Ministry. If you want to talk about parenting today's teens as well. Let's talk about grief. As adults, we experience grief. I guess I never really think about my boys experiencing grief, but they do. Kids do experience grief. Talk about that a bit.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I live with 65 high school kids, and they come from all over the country, but it's not unique to just kids. Dealing with grief is something that's really tough. And I wrote this book called Where's Stitch because we had a dog that died. And people started telling me things like, well, it crossed the Rainbow Bridge. And I'm not really sure I knew what that was or that it went to doggy heaven. And I didn't know there was a special, or it's a special place. And I felt that I was a little slammed or people were paying attention to me with a little bit of triteness that I thought, wait a minute, this dog has been a part of our family, meant something to our family. I was in Nashville last week and I brought it up to a group of people we were having dinner with, an odd group of 20-year-olds all the way up to 70-year-olds. And it was funny. We talked about all these different things, but then when I told them about the book, there wasn't a dry eye in the place as each one of them started to share when they've lost a pet or an animal within their family. And it meant something to them. And I think the crazy thing for me is that people give these stupid answers as to what really happened. And quite honestly, I don't know what happened to my dog. I don't know where she is. Her carcass is in our backyard, but I don't know where she is. And quite honestly, I think we get this idea that we're supposed to know the answer to everything. I'm not so sure that's true, because when we do know the answer, we don't search for something different. And I think what I've done with a dog, it's 42 years of the same lineage of a dog, of this line of dogs that we've had. It's interesting to me that because I don't know, it causes me to wonder even more about just dealing with the grief of loss and how we kind of fill those voids in our life quickly. And I see that with kids all the time. They come from all over the country. They live with us. They've experienced trauma. And nobody really sits down and talks to them, not just giving them an answer, but talking to them and walking them through and saying it's okay to have the feelings that you have, because there's a reason that person or perhaps that animal was in your life, that God gave you that animal to teach you some things. And so that's where the children's book came out of. And I think it's a great book.
Well, let's talk about grief with young folks and teens. Do kids grieve differently than adults do, or is it the same? Or do you feel like they're told, just it'll be fine, you can get over it? Is it something different for them?
Well, I think it is a little bit different, because most kids don't start thinking abstractly until they're like 12 or 13 years of age. And so a young kid that loses an animal or loses a parent or a grandparent, we give them answers that are so abstract they couldn't understand it if they wanted to, or they just kind of go, okay, well, there's no answer to it, I'll leave it alone and walk away from it. And so it's postponed grief. Then when they get to 12 or 13 and they start thinking about those issues in an abstract way, then they almost grieve again, and they grieve in a very real way. And so the intent isn't to say, let's not give them an answer. The intent is saying, let's help kids get through the grief by having discussions. And so just because somebody died or something died at 7 or 8 years of age, when they turn 12 or 13, you're going to have to revisit those things. The kids, we've had over 3,000 kids live with us. They come from traumatic settings and backgrounds. And when we go and walk back through all the difficulties and hardships in their life, I think what's amazing to me is how little they've talked it through, and how much of a desire they have to do so in such a way that just says it's okay to talk about something that you don't understand. It's okay to not have an answer. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to wonder about things, because it causes you to search for something different.
That's so good. Mark Gregston, he is a child behavior expert and author of the book. Check it out. It's Where's Stitch? When you feel like you've lost your best furry friend. It's a children's book. There's the website, where'sstitch.com. He's also a part of a Heartlight Ministry. Yeah, I think, we've had several discussions. And as I mentioned, Dan still has one teen at home, and I have one teen at home. He's getting ready to move into to 20, to be 20. So then but what we've seen is that teens are wrestling with something that I didn't wrestle with when I was younger, or is a different form. We dealt with it differently or whatever. And they seem to be leaning toward taking the default is take your life. That'll fix it. And it doesn't. And we've seen college athletes now just doing that. Looks like they're doing okay. They're stars. They're doing everything. And then bam, they're done. So that's got to be connected, right?
Yeah, I think it's connected in a number of different ways. And one, the relationship component that they have in their life is far different than the relationship component that you and I have had. If the three of us sat down and talked in the same room, we would get along well. We'd look face to face. We'd develop a relationship. We'd talk about something a little bit deeper. We would stay off of these things a while to say, let's spend some time talking. And so the relationship goes deeper. The other side of the coin is that this culture is a little bit more intense than most people believe that it is. And so it's affecting our kids. And it's affecting them more because they don't have the relationships to help them mature. So they don't have the tools in their adolescent toolbox to handle the things that are coming to them. And you and I have said this, that we're all glad that we don't have to be raised in this culture, but they do. And so then the third component of it is it has become a coping mechanism. Suicide has. That now it's for 15-year-old girls, it's, the suicide rates are at an all-time high over the last 75 years. And the second highest group of suicide groupings is a 15-year-old boy. And so there's a part of it where, because they hear everything, they see everything, they are exposed to everything, and they hear of suicides by so many people around them, that now it's an alternative. Now it's a coping mechanism that's accepted. And I think you put all those three things together and ends up in a very dangerous spot for our kids.
All right. So the book, Where's Stitch? You said you had some good response last week with folks that were crying and remembering these things. But what do you want folks to walk away with when they read this book?
That it's okay to not know. We get this idea within Christian circles that we got to know everything. And I'm kind of convinced, the older I get, the more I realize I don't know. And I'm really in a better place. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know, I don't know all those answers to all the questions that even kids have. And so sometimes by saying I don't know gives permission for them to say, you know what, I don't know either. But we can talk about those things and get through it and walk on the other side by having those lengthy discussions that last for years and years and years, instead of thinking that we've got to come up with a quick answer to fill the voids in our life, because God has given us the opportunity, I think, to not only fill those voids by the wonderment of his creation, but through animals and other things that he's provided for us, that we can move on. But it's good for us to process the things he's given us, to learn what he's given them to us for. And that becomes important.
That's so good, Greg. Mark. Mark Gregston, he is a child behavior expert and author. The book, check out the book. It is a great book. Where's Stitch.com. You can also go to parentingtodaysteens.org. And what a great guest. We'd love to have you back.
Would love to.
Something I was going to ask you, and I just had a senior moment and I have forgotten. Do you have a podcast? Because is there a way to watch you, to hear you? Because this stuff is really, really good. And I think we all need to hear it more.
Yeah, we do. It's just Parenting Today's Teens. It's a podcast that we have. It's a 5-day release, and we're out there in so many different places. Our radio programs on about 1,800 stations across the country, and so we spend a lot of time answering questions, giving insight, helping people put as many parenting tools in their parenting toolbox as necessary. And so that's kind of been our intent.
That's so good.
Well,
Mark Gregston.
It's a great ministry you got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get you back in the summer if you're up for it. And
I would love it.
And two, we just want to see the guns again.
There you go. There you go. Well, we'll show them to you again. That's good. That's good.
Next time, wear the spurs, have a gun ready, just kind of have that old Western look.
Okay.
That'd be great.
That works. That works.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Check out the book and check out the ministries there. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.